Okay. So good. It's good morning for me. I'm in San Diego, but see, for Brialle and some others, if you're out East Coast, East time zone, it's afternoon already. So welcome everyone. You are tuned in here to a speaker series. We're really happy to present to you. It's being hosted by Dharma Voices for Animals. So we call ourselves DVA. And we happen to be the only international Buddhist animal rights organization in the whole world. We got projects in Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Sri Lanka, where about 140 million Buddhists live. So we have a large target audience. There are about a billion Buddhists around the world, mostly in Asia, of course. And this is we've been doing speaker series about 2.5 years, so we're really happy to be here. What I want to do is I want to introduce Andrea Diaz, who's our operations director. Andrea's in her third year now. She works with me, supervising, monitoring all the projects. We also have a big project here in the United States, which is getting interesting. So, welcome everyone. I'm very, very happy to have Brialle Ringer here. I think you'll really enjoy and get a lot out of her talk. Andrea.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bob, for the introduction. And thank you again to everyone for joining us today. I am honored to have the opportunity to introduce Brialle Ringer, who will be discussing burnout prevention. As someone who's experienced burnout more times than I can remember, I am particularly excited and grateful for Brialle being here today. We can't have a movement without you all, so this information is truly invaluable. So now on to our wonderful guest. Brialle is a breathwork alchemist, somatic coach, and wellness educator who's also a fierce advocate for collective liberation. She spent a decade decolonizing from the grind culture after being a burnt out social worker and has dedicated her life to helping folks like us all beat burnout and bounce back better. So please join me in welcoming Brialle Ringer.
Hello, hello. Of course, my dog wanted to bark at the same time that I'm getting introduced. She might say hello a few more times during this session, but hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here with you all. Grateful for the opportunity to share on this topic. And so I'm going to get my screen sharing in just a moment here, and then we will dive right in. But as you're kind of grounding in, I would love for you to let me know in the chat where you're feeling, where you're at today energetically on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being on the low end of maybe probably shouldn't be on a call right now. I'm super tapped out. 5 being I'm feeling awesome, I'm ready to go. Let me know where you're at. Just getting a feel for the energy in the room. Scale of 0 to 5. Drop it in the chat when you can. You can also let me know that you're able to see my screen okay. Okay, thank you for those of you who are dropping your numbers in the chat. Okay. Sounds like about an average of 3 so far. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. It helps me just be with where you are. And I hope that by the end of this session, we can get the average up to, say, a 4. So before I dive in too much more, I would love to just take a moment to actually ground in and allow us all to get a little bit more connected to our breath and our bodies. And so I invite you, if you're able to do so, if you're comfortable to do so, if you can just take a moment to feel connected to the support of your chair. Maybe close down your eyes or just soften your gaze. Feeling your feet connected to the floor if that's accessible to you. And then notice your breath. Observing the breath as it is when you first arrive, first check in. And on your next exhale, seeing if you can sink in to the support of your chair and the earth beneath you a little bit more. Feeling the body soften. We'll take 3 deep breaths together. Taking a deep inhale. And exhale. Deep inhale. And exhale. Once more, deep inhale. And exhale. Slowly beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Taking any other movements that might feel good. And then blinking open the eyes if they're closed. Returning to the space a little more grounded, a little more present. And so throughout our session today, I'm going to be speaking about embodiment, somatics, and I like to start by just allowing you to actually feel it first before we get too deep into some of the science and the research, just allowing it to land in your body, because that's really what it's all about, is taking more time to connect with the wisdom of your body is going to go a long way in beating burnout and bouncing back better. So thank you for taking that moment to ground. We're actually going to have a practice at the second half of this presentation where you'll have a lot more time to be with the sensations in your body, but I like to start there with a little taste of it. So I'll share a bit more about myself and sharing about my background. So before I was connected to the animal advocacy movement and doing work in wellness and somatics and healing, I was getting my degree in social work, and I was the kind of person who was doing the absolute most. I was going to school full time. I was working through school. I was volunteering. I was doing undergraduate research on college homelessness. That was kind of my core focus, was working with youth experiencing homelessness, and then doing a study at my university about students at our university who were experiencing housing insecurity, and then using that research to advocate for more resources on campus around food justice, housing justice. But I had a really unhealthy relationship with service at the time. And I said yes to everything that came my way. And a big part of that was just because all of the opportunities that were coming my way felt really meaningful, really important. And I had this sense of urgency of like, oh my God, I gotta like save the world yesterday. And so it led me to constantly take on more than I actually had the capacity for. Let me know if you can relate to that. That desire to really want to do something meaningful and ending up actually overextending yourself. And so that was definitely my experience. And that led me to be so exhausted, so drained, and without any energy left for myself, that I would have these long 12-hour days running around from obligation to obligation. And at the end of one of those 12-hour days, I was driving body from what was right in front of me that I drove straight into a pole in a parking lot. And my first thought when the airbag went off was, I don't have time for this. I'm supposed to be doing grad school applications. And after the dust had kind of settled, in the next day or two, I reflected on that moment and how my first thought when something happened was not my health and my well-being, but my to-do list. And that really helped me to understand that I had a very unhealthy relationship with my body, with work, and I needed to make some really big changes, because if I was doing all the things that I was doing to make a difference, to support collective healing and liberation, well, what good am I going to be with that if I don't have my health and well-being? If that car accident was more fatal? And so I realized that I needed to shift the way that I was relating to my body, to my work, to my life. And so this journey, that was about 10 years ago, and it ended up really being a blessing in disguise. Burnout for me was a blessing in disguise because it gave me the opportunity to redirect my focus, to take care of my health better, to set better boundaries, to learn to say no and ask for support, and really reflect on whether the path that I was on was truly aligned with my soul's calling, with a path that felt really something that I could sustain. And for me, the answer was no at the time, that the path that I was going on was not sustainable. And I wanted to be able to feel like, yes, this is my life's work. I can do this forever. And I feel really excited because that's where I'm at now. It's taken me some time of really integrating the wisdom from that car accident, from that emotional exhaustion and burnout, to now creating a really balanced, authentic, fulfilling life of supporting other people who are change makers, advocates, healers, helpers, to go back into the place that I was in and say another way is possible. That you can do really meaningful work without abandoning yourself. And in fact, if you desire to do your most powerful work in the world to support the causes that you care about, you must prioritize your well-being. And so that is really the intention behind the title of this talk, of Beat Burnout, Bounce Back Better. Not as a call to like hurry up and get back to work, hurry up and get back to the capitalist grind, but bounce back better by using burnout as a teaching moment. Or even better, learning to listen to the language of your body, to know when you need to slow down, shift, ask for support before you reach burnout, right? So let me know in the chat if this resonates for you. I worry that if I slow down, the causes I care about will suffer. I worry that if I slow down, the causes I care about will suffer. If I take a break, what's going to happen to the animals? If I don't do it, who will? I see some notes coming in the chat, that see some hands going up. Yeah, so this was really, I felt that weight on me so much, and working with more advocates in the work that I do now, where I come in and I work with nonprofit organizations and support executive directors, CEOs, and leaders to connect with the wisdom of their body. This is one of the main things that I hear over and over again, is this fear of feeling like everything's going to fall apart if I take a moment to step back and take care of myself. But what I've learned from my own experience and from dozens of clients that I've supported and dozens of organizations that I've supported is, if you don't intentionally take time for yourself, life will sit you down and make you take the time, whether that comes up through unexpected health challenges, accidents like my car accident, or otherwise. But if you don't wait and you intentionally choose now to take the time for yourself, to honor your need for rest, to create space for healthy boundaries and a sustainable workflow, that your vision of what's possible expands. Your capacity expands. Your impact expands. And so that's the goal and intention here. And I really want to name that if you resonate with the statement that I just shared on the last slide, that is not a personal failure. Struggling to keep up with the pace of this system is not a personal failure. You are a machine, no, you're not a machine. You are not a machine. You are a divine human being. And so there is a lot of systemic pressure to push beyond your limits and to constantly extend yourself. And so I want you to really have compassion for yourself if that's a place that you're in, if that's a place that you've been in before, because when we start to beat ourselves up and shame ourselves and feel not good enough because we're in that place, it doesn't do anything to help. And so bringing compassion to the place of exhaustion and overextension, and to realize all of the pressure that we have. One, systemically, is like being in a capitalist society that really glorifies the grind and creates the push to like go, 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 do more, better, faster. Just like take a breath there, because I know that many of us carry that pressure. And depending on the identities that you carry, whether you're a person of color who feels this pressure of like, we have to work twice as hard to get half as far. If you're a woman in a patriarchal society where it feels like we have to constantly put everyone else's needs above our own and like give and give and give. All of this pressure contributes to burnout, contributes to feeling this sense of urgency and exhaustion. And like beyond the systemic pressure, advocates, like if you are an advocate, a change maker, a healer, I know that you also just really want to do everything in your power to shift the conditions and create a more just society. And it's a really noble cause. But in order to sustain yourself and do your most honorable, beautiful work in the world, you have to learn how to listen to your body and take those moments of rest when necessary. Because everything in life is in cycles. Despite this pressure to constantly do more, if we look at nature, nature has cycles. If you live in the northern hemisphere, we have spring, summer, winter, fall. There are cycles. If we look at the biology of females, we have a 28-day cycle. There are cycles in life, and yet we put this pressure on ourselves to constantly have the same output. And it just is not in alignment with nature. And so a lot of, I feel like, healing happens when we return to nature and we honor those moments when we're in our winter, when we need a little bit of rest, instead of pathologizing it and making ourselves wrong and creating all of this external pressure. And so you are not a machine. You are a divine human being who is worthy of taking space. And when you do, you really start to embody the freedom that you're fighting for. Embody the freedom you're fighting for, rather than pushing from exhaustion and burnout, which is truly the antithesis of the compassion, love, and liberation that we desire for animals, that we desire for the world. This little pig that you want to like help set free, and whatever cause it is that you care about, that you're really standing for. Well, can you embody that inside of yourself too? Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams shares in the book Radical Dharma that our healing cannot wait until the structures become undone. And so people who really care about social justice, collective healing, collective liberation, it's like, I just have to do more so that we can like cross this line of moving towards equity, moving towards justice and liberation for all. And so I gotta like push myself. And there are moments of stretching ourselves, but if that is the constant pattern and pace of your life, you are going to burn yourself into the ground and ultimately not be able to achieve the big vision and goal that you have for social justice and liberation. But when you take that time to rest, to step back, take space, again, the vision for what's possible expands. You feel into the freedom that you're fighting for. You can actually feel it in your body. And you don't have to feel guilty for that joy, for that expansion that you get a taste of. It becomes a stake in the ground of every other being deserves access to this. And so we use those moments of joy and expansion in our own lives as a glimmer, a little glimmer of what is possible, to resource ourselves to keep showing up and fighting the good fight. So I want to speak for a moment, and also let me know if that resonated. Let me know if you are someone who's like, okay, yes, I have space to embody the freedom that I'm fighting for. I'm going to start to make more space for that. Let me know if that resonated in the chat. And I want to share a little specifically about burnout in animal advocacy. And then we'll talk a little bit about the symptoms that you can be mindful of how to make sure that you aren't approaching burnout yourself. And if you are, what to do about it. And then we'll have a practice to do it all together. So just so you know what to anticipate, what's coming down the line. So in animal advocacy in particular, and really this is common among helping professions, again, any social justice movement. Like when I was in social work and I was going through my own burnout, I looked up and I looked around and I said, dang near everyone else in my life is going through the same thing. So people in helping professions and social justice movements, this is really common, experiencing burnout. And it is a systemic problem. Remember the slide I shared a few slides back about just the systemic pressure that we live in that's contributing to this problem. And so organizationally, we need solutions to address this, that it's, again, it's not just a personal failure. It's not just a personal problem. We have to make sure that the organizational policies that are in place support people actually being able to have the resources to say no, to ask for support, to get mental health support. And Amruza Birdie wrote a really great article about this, about burnout being a systemic problem that needs organizational solutions, and that's on Encompass, so anyone who's curious about that. And while it's a systemic problem, it is also our individual responsibility, because you are the only one who can feel how much is too much for you. You are the only one who is connected to what's happening in your body. And so it is your responsibility to be in touch with your own needs, to advocate for yourself and speak up for yourself when you need support. Because I have worked with organizations who actually have amazing policies, but people feel too guilty to use them. So that's our work, to be able to know what's happening inside of our bodies, to speak up for ourselves, to get the help that we need. Right? So I'm going to be focusing in more on the individual side of it. Now, coming back to animal advocacy, we actually just had a leader in the movement step away due to burnout. Jo Anderson of Faunalytics, they wrote an article about it. She's been really outspoken. She was a part of a panel during Animal and Vegan Advocacy Summit that people were speaking about this, which makes me so happy. Seeing more conversations happening about this to normalize it, to reduce some of the stigma around this conversation is really important. And unfortunately, it's a common thing that's happening in this community. And part of that is because we have a movement of people who just pour their hearts and souls into this work, which is a really beautiful thing, but it can also contribute to the risk of burnout. Again, putting more in, giving more than you actually have the capacity to give. And so this kind of work in particular, advocacy, animal advocacy, helping professions, it comes with a lot of emotional labor when you are witnessing people going through really challenging experiences, when you are bearing witness to the harm that's happening to animals, that is really heavy to carry. And so as a way to try and cope with the emotional labor of doing this kind of work, sometimes folks can end up suppressing those emotions in order to protect themselves, to use it as a way to protect from feeling the weight of grief and frustration. But ultimately, over time, it ends up diminishing your health and well-being. So it might help you feel better in the moment by just avoiding it altogether. But over time, it just makes the burden heavier to carry. Because those suppressed emotions, they get stored in the body as chronic stress and chronic dysregulation. And I'm going to share more about how you deal with that, how you can complete the stress cycle to deal with the stress that's stored in our bodies, to start to feel some of the emotions that you've maybe been avoiding feeling that felt too heavy to feel, so that you can come back to greater health and wholeness inside of yourself and feel more sustained in your life, in your leadership. The World Health Organization defines burnout by emotional exhaustion, cynicism or feelings of negativity, and a decreased sense of accomplishment. Emotional exhaustion is the one most strongly linked to negative impacts on our health, relationships, and work, especially for women. So this is why my work specifically really focuses in on emotional health and well-being, around somatic work to help feel through the emotions that are held in our bodies, right? Our emotions are called feelings because they are felt sensations in the body. So when I'm speaking about connecting with the wisdom of your body, you are also innately connecting with your feelings and your emotions that are stored in the body, which is really key to addressing burnout, because emotional exhaustion is the one most strongly linked to the negative impacts on us. So how do you know if you have burnout? Here are a few of the symptoms that you can be mindful of. These are a few questions that you can ask yourself. And if they resonate, if they're present for you, then it's a good time to be getting some support, to check in and do a little digging. So, have you become less enthusiastic about your work? Do you feel emotionally drained? Are you feeling cynical about whether your work contributes to anything? So you might be asking yourself, like, oh, does this even matter? Like, feeling really overwhelmed with like the scope of what you're up to. Have you lost patience with coworkers, customers, clients, or loved ones? Sometimes you might be holding it all together well, like forward facing, but then you go home and you like get into an argument with your partner, right? Are you using food, drugs, alcohol, any kind of substances to feel better or numb and avoid how you feel? Have your sleep habits changed? Maybe noticing that it's more challenging to fall asleep or stay asleep, or you're getting less sleep because you're having like ruminating thoughts that are coming up. And do you have headaches, stomach, bowel problems, or other physical complaints that don't have a known cause? So with that regard to that last one, I have worked with many people who have experienced chronic pain, that then when we do a breathwork session and we go in and we start to feel into what has been suppressed, start to feel and create space for that grief, frustration, hopelessness, and see what's on the other side of it, that in feeling their emotions, the physical pain subsides. And so our emotional experience and our physical experience is very connected through our nervous system. Our nerves are sending messages between our brain and our bodies to really create this connection between our mind and our bodies. And so sometimes the physical pain that you're experiencing is connected to the emotional pain that you're avoiding feeling. And so when you don't listen to the subtle signals of your emotions, then it can manifest physically. And so physically, you might start by feeling like, oh, I feel some tension happening in the chest. And the body speaks first in subtle sensations, but if you don't listen, it starts to get louder. So that subtle tension or discomfort in the chest, when you keep avoiding it and not listening and paying attention to it, or just taking a Tylenol to feel better immediately, then it starts to become louder to now it's actually feeling painful. Now I'm actually kind of concerned and maybe I need to go to the doctor and see someone about this. And then it can continue to progress and become chronic health problems, chronic pain, dysfunction, disease, like digestive problems. So that's why that last question is there, because that suppressed emotions stored in the body as chronic stress then has an impact on our digestive system, our immune health, our reproductive health, like all of the organs that are connected. It's all connected. So these are things to be mindful of. Now, if a number of these resonate for you, if a number of these are present for you right now, let's talk a little bit about recovery. And I want to just check in with the chat as well. I see some things have been coming through. I want to make sure I'm not missing anyone's important questions. Let's see. I can't find where the chat went, so I'll come back to it. So burnout recovery, if you do experience burnout, if you're in it now, if you've been through it before, how long burnout lasts really depends on the level of emotional exhaustion and physical fatigue. And so it depends how deep into the experience you went, how long it's going to take you to get out of it. And it also depends on some of the protective factors that you have in place already. If you are practicing some of the things that I'll share later, you might be able to come out of that experience pretty quickly. But it takes an average of 3 months to a year to recover from burnout. Okay, 3 months to a year. I've even seen that it can take up to 3 years. Again, it depends on how deep into burnout you experienced. But an average of 3 months to a year. So if you are in burnout, how you can recover from it, first of all, you got to seek support. I mean, I think even before seeking support, you have to have a level of self-awareness, a level of connection to your body to understand, acknowledge, and accept that you are experiencing burnout, and to have compassion for yourself and to let go of the shame of it and allow yourself to ask for help. Now, asking for help is going to come in a different arenas. If you are at work, you might need to ask for help to take some things off your plate, speaking to your supervisor, your manager, your colleagues about like, you really need some support right now. Can you take a mental health day? Can you take a vacation? Who can step in and take some of the load off of you so that you can have a little bit of a breather? If you're at home and you have a partner or other people in the home who you share responsibilities with, asking for some help and support there so that you can lighten the load. And emotionally, either working with a therapist, a coach, someone that you trust where you can have support to navigate this experience, to have support processing the emotions that have been weighing on you, to start to find your way through so that you don't have to carry it alone, right? We are not meant to do this alone. And so maybe the emotional support is you have a really great group of friends, a really great person who you can call and feel supported by. But if you do have capacity, working with a professional is really helpful as well. You also want to create space between you and your stressors. So the stressors are the things that are causing you to feel overwhelmed, the things that are contributing to you feeling like you can't keep up. So again, the creating space might mean taking a mental health day, taking a sabbatical, a vacation. You might even need to like quit your job. You might need to step away for some time to reevaluate. And all of that is okay, because ultimately your health and your well-being is the top priority. And social justice work, movement work is always going to be here for you. There's always something that needs work. There's always a cause that needs fighting for. But if you are showing up exhausted and like snapping at the people around you and short-sighted because you are not well, it's okay to take that time to care for your well-being and then come back to it. Bounce back better, right? And in that time and space that you're creating, really prioritizing your health and well-being. I'm probably not saying anything new to you, okay? You probably already know these things. But maybe there's something that comes up for you of like, okay, here is one thing that I really want to remember from this session. So I want you to keep that in mind of where can you tighten things up? Where can you invite in greater resource and support for yourself? What's the one thing that you can walk away from this with? Really keep that in mind of where you are in this conversation and what's going to be most supportive to you as you're prioritizing your health and well-being, whether it's you need to get more sleep, improve your nutrition, eating more whole food, plant-based, like spending more time in nature, having more community support, whatever that looks like for you, of where in your health and well-being could use a little extra support. And lastly, creating a daily practice for completing the stress cycle to support your physical and mental health. This is what I'm going to share more about with you in the next slide, and then we are going to practice this together, because this is one of the best things that you can do to prevent burnout, to address stored emotions, to feel physically well and sustain yourself, okay? All of these things that I've mentioned here, these are also protective factors that are going to help you recover faster. So if you start practicing now, if you're like, I'm not burnt out yet, well, just practice these now, because they're going to support your health and well-being overall. And then if it ever gets to that point for you, you'll be able to recover faster. What I think is really important to mention with this, as I'm talking about stress being stored in our bodies, suppressed emotions stored in our bodies, and emotional exhaustion being one of the top indicators of burnout, that just telling yourself you're safe now, calm down, doesn't help. Just telling yourself everything's fine, chill out, it doesn't really help. We actually need to do something that teaches our bodies that we're okay, because there's a distinction between the stressor might be your job, and the physiological experience of stress that's held in our bodies. If you address the stressor by taking time off of work, that does not address the physiological impact of that stress that is creating a rush of adrenaline and cortisol and deteriorating your immune health and your digestive health and all of your organs that are working together, because your body is focused on survival. When you get triggered, your nervous system jumps in to help protect you, to help keep you safe. That's what it's designed to do. But unfortunately, we are reacting to perceived threats rather than actual danger. And so if you open your email inbox, if you go to work and it feels like really overwhelming and there's too much for you to address, well, your body is responding in the same way as it would to a lion chasing you or a car coming down the road straight at you. Our bodies can't really distinguish the difference between those threats. Our bodies are responding the same. And so addressing the stressor doesn't address the physiological impact of the stress. We need embodied practices that complete the stress cycle so that we are speaking the language of our body, which our body speaks in sensations. The mind speaks in words. So just trying positive thinking and affirmations isn't going to cut it. We need to take care of our bodies. Let's talk about how. So completing the stress cycle is one of the best things that you can do on a daily basis to help support your overall health and well-being, prevent burnout, And so again, because stress is stored in our bodies, it requires more than positive thinking. We need those somatic practices, embodied practices. When I say somatic, I just mean body-based, ways to move our bodies, to move through what gets stuck and incomplete. So the best way to do this is physical activity, 20 to 60 minutes of physical activity every day. You've probably already heard so many other reasons why it's so healthy and great for us to get physical activity. Well, I'm adding another thing to your list. It's going to help you prevent burnout. It's going to help you address repressed emotions. It's going to help you complete the stress cycle and come back to a space of ease and well-being. And so let me know what works for you already. What are some of the physical practices that you already are doing, right? I'm going to share some new tools that you can use, but really it's about finding what works for you. So maybe you dance, maybe you do yoga, or run, or you like to go for a walk. You walk your dog walking time ends up being a really great time for you too. Let me know some of the things that you do for physical activity that really works already. Yes. Anyone like to walk, dance? Yes, I also really love to dance. Weightlifting, swimming, hiking, amazing. I love it. Yes. So finding what works for you is really great. In addition to physical activity to help complete the stress cycle and release the stress that gets stored in our bodies, here are some other ways that you can complete the stress cycle. These are all science-backed ways to support the completion of the stress cycle. So art, if you are someone who is creative expression is really good for it. Deep breathing, which we'll practice together in a moment. Laughter, a good laugh with loved ones is really effective for this as well. And affection, whether it's a 20-second hug from someone that you feel safe with, or a kiss 6 seconds or longer with a partner and loved one. These are also very effective ways to complete the stress cycle. A big cry, like letting yourself just cry and feel all the pressure that you've been feeling and letting it out. And the way that you are going to know that the stress cycle is complete, you'll feel the relief. You're going to feel that like, weight lifted from your shoulders. Feeling that ease start to come back to you after that good laugh, after that hug, after breathing, moving your body, crying. And so find what works for you and practice every single day. Every day. Let's actually practice this together. I'm going to guide you through a brief practice to connect with the wisdom of your body, to connect with your breath, so that you can feel into a moment of this together. And so the breathing practice that I guide is breathing in and out through the mouth, into the belly, into the heart, and out. I'm going to guide you through that the whole time, but just so you know what to expect. And you can do it right from where you are, seated in a nice, comfortable position. And as we're doing this practice, it's really designed to get you in touch with the wisdom of your body. It's designed to help you feel some of the things you've maybe been avoiding feeling just for a moment. We just have about 10 minutes of doing this practice together. And much like in the Buddhist path of through suffering, going through the suffering to reach light, happiness, we're going to feel into the places of pain so that you can see what's on the other side. And so sometimes when we bring our awareness to those places of discomfort and pain, the sensation might amplify initially, but the more that you're just with it, feeling it without trying to fix it, without trying to release it, without shaming yourself for feeling that way, then it starts to shift. And what once felt heavy starts to feel lighter. Okay? So the suffering is in the avoidance, but freedom is found in feeling. Let's try it on, okay? If you feel safe to do so, if you feel comfortable to do so, go ahead and close down your eyes. Again, getting comfortable in your chair. Feeling the support of the chair beneath you, the floor underneath your feet, the earth lovingly holding you in every breath you take. Just take a moment to begin to follow the rhythm of breath that I guide. I'm going to keep it nice and slow and deep, so it should be safe for all to practice. But if anything starts to pass the threshold of discomfort and feel painful, then you can just come back to your natural rhythm of breath and just listen to the sound of my voice. But if you're able to, I invite you to take a deep inhale, letting your belly rise and fill with air. A second inhale, letting your chest rise and fill with air. And an exhale to release. Deep inhale, let your belly rise and fill with air. Second inhale, into the heart, let the chest rise. And out. Continuing just like that, breathing into the belly, into the heart, and out. Feeling that with each breath out, you're dropping in a little bit more. Continuing just like that. I invite you to bring your awareness to your body, noticing any sensations that are present for you. You might feel a tingling, a tightness. All of that is normal. I invite you to bring your full presence to a place in the body where you are experiencing the most activation, the most sensation. Maybe that's a heaviness in the feet, or maybe it's a flutter in the belly, or tension in the chest or the shoulders. Go ahead and scan your body as you continue to breathe. And if it's difficult to feel anything at all, that's okay too. Just notice the numbness and disconnection if that's what's present for you. But if you are able to identify a place in the body where you're feeling a lot of sensation and activation, bring your full presence there. And just feel it without trying to fix it or release it or make meaning. Just feel it. Notice what it feels like. Noticing what happens to the sensation when you bring your presence there. Does the volume turn up? Does the sensation become more as you bring your presence there? Or does it start to lessen? Notice what happens to the body when you bring your presence to it. And then I invite you to ask this place in your body, what am I holding on to? What am I holding on to? Or asked a different way, what have I been avoiding feeling? And just listen, noticing the wisdom that arises from the body, continuing to breathe. We'll just spend a few more moments here. On your next exhale, really letting out a sigh of relief, letting some sound out with that exhale. Ooh. Letting the breath help release some of that tension that you've been carrying for far too long, that you no longer have to carry alone. That in this moment you can give some of what you've been carrying back to the earth. That you can set down all the pressure you've been putting on yourself. That you can allow yourself to feel some of what has felt too heavy to feel before. If any emotions come up, letting them come. The grief, the frustration, any of that arises. And notice again what shifts when you let that exhale out, when you let those tears come, when you bring the presence to the place in the body that has been longing for your love and attention. Can you start to feel a little bit more spaciousness? Taking one more deep inhale, biggest breath you've breathed all day. One more sip of air, hold it there. And release. Coming back to your natural rhythm of breath. Noticing any final divine insights. Any other messages from your body that are being communicated to you in this moment of deep presence and radical honesty. Imagining what it might feel like to create more space like this for yourself in your life. Slowly begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Bring your chin into your chest, rolling your head around. Taking any other movements that may feel good. Maybe stretching the arms nice and long. And then when you're ready, blinking open the eyes. Noticing any shifts that have occurred for you. Taking as much time as you need to slowly come back. This was a brief little taste of the work that I do with my clients. And I hope that it was helpful in giving you an embodied experience of ease so that you can feel what that's like for you and to start to make more space for this in your life, whether it's a practice like this or something else that I shared earlier in our conversation about ways to complete the stress cycle. The important thing is that you find something that works for you. And really to notice that in just about 10 minutes of breathing and being in your body, like what shifts for you? What a difference your body feels, what a difference happens in your breath, in your level of presence and awareness. I know that that's always available to you, no matter the conditions of the outside world, no matter what's going on around you. There is a place of peace and ease that lives inside of you. And sometimes it takes a little bit more digging to get to, but it's there. And there's so much wisdom in that place that is lovingly guiding you into alignment for your life, for your leadership. I hope that you will continue to return there often. I just have a few more things here for you to share some tips to help you integrate and continue practicing this in your own life. But let me know in the chat as you start to come back how you're feeling. And if you had questions about this practice, you can drop them there too. I know sometimes it takes a moment to come back to present, so As you are, I'm just going to go over these little tips. Essentially, what I want to leave you with is to stop waiting until your body is screaming to start paying attention. Cry when you feel the urge to. Rest when you're tired. Eat when you're hungry. Use the bathroom when you need to. These are a couple of very simple things that you can do to start to honor the wisdom of your body. And I know it sounds really basic, but think about how often you override these basic biological functions when you drink another cup of caffeine instead of taking a nap, when you skip lunch so that you can continue working and getting more done, right? When you shove down the emotions instead of allowing yourself to cry. So these really simple things go a long way. A few other tips for continued practice. Find one of those ways to complete the stress cycle that really worked for you and practice for 30 minutes or more every single day. Whether you love to dance, do yoga, run, creative expression, time with loved ones, mix it up, do a little bit of all of them so that you're getting all of your needs met and addressing the stress that gets stored every single day. If you can, I really invite you to do this in the beginning of your day, to start your day with self-care. It's going to make a huge difference in your level of focus, capacity, inspiration for the remainder of your day. And it just becomes kind of like this signal to the world around you that you are your first priority. So if you can, start your day with self-care. Have a way for you to feel your feelings, whether that's with a therapist, with a trusted loved one, in your journal, in your own embodied practices, but really pay attention to how you feel and listen to that. Cultivating meaning and purpose in your life and your work is also really important. Like if you're doing something in work that doesn't feel aligned with your passions, that can also lead you to burnout pretty quickly, because that drive dries up pretty quickly when you are not feeling fulfilled in the kind of work that you're doing. So sometimes it's also a matter of like doing slightly different work or doing the work that you're doing now, but in a different way that feels more sustainable. Take your lunch break, whether you work from home, whether you work for yourself. Always take a midday break in your workday to close your screens down, to mindfully be with your food and have that moment to take a break in the middle of the day instead of like pushing on for the entirety of the day. Take a walk, eat some nourishing food, take your lunch break. And continue to listen to your body when you need to slow down, say no, ask for support. In your own practice, these are a few books that I recommend. If you want to continue learning about some of what I've shared here, these are a few resources that I draw from in my own practice that I find really helpful and share with my clients. And I'll just leave you with this, that as each of us honor our capacity, advocate for our needs, and remember our inherent worth, together we are building a sustainable and successful movement of advocates confidently thriving in our purpose and our power. It's been an honor to be with you. I know we're a little over time, but I would love to hear some questions or takeaways in the chat. And so if you would like to, and if we're able to, I would love to hear from some of you about like a big insight that came through, any questions that you have, how you felt after the practice. I'd love to hear from you all. Let's see. Practicing with you, Brialle, it's always a powerful and rich experience. Thank you for all you share and how you share it. Literally like visiting a new pocket of dimension and time. Magical. I think that was in regards to the practice of like breathing and connecting to your body. I love that. Yes, connecting to this new dimension. Taking breaks to just listen is so huge. Yes, absolutely. From Adam, thanks Brialle. Seeing stress through the lens of a cycle is very helpful. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Yes. Any other questions or comments in the chat? Yes. How do we kindly encourage advocates who are burnt out to take time off? This is so beautiful. It's a great question, because it can be a touchy subject of, especially if someone doesn't want to admit that they are. And so I think that we can bring awareness to maybe some of the symptoms that we're seeing of them, of, hey, I noticed that it seems like you are feeling really overwhelmed right now. Is that how you're feeling? Or I noticed that you were have been struggling to keep up with work. Is there something going on? I'd love to be able to support you better. So just asking questions is a really good way. Like, we don't want to just come at people and be like, you're burnt out and you're stressing everyone out. How can we ask questions to get more information and really open the space for them to feel comfortable to share about their own experience? And then as they're sharing, letting them know, we're here for you. It's okay for you to take time and space. We want you to be healthy and well. What do you need from us in order to be well, right? Normalizing. And I think also the more that we model this, the more that it becomes a normal part of our conversation. And so I love that Joe Anderson at Faunalytics spoke openly about why they were leaving Faunalytics was partially because of burnout. It normalizes the conversation. It makes it safe for other people to do what they need to do to care for themselves. So if you are a leader in an organization and you say, I need a mental health day, I will be back, I need to take some space for myself. And so when we lead with vulnerability and model and show the way, that also really helps, as well as asking questions for clarification and reminding people how supported they are. I'm just getting back into a sustainable lifestyle after being burnt out and depressed for several months. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm really glad that the reminders feel helpful. So thank you. What you said about not having to carry all the weight by ourselves reminds me of what Thich Nhat Hanh said, the next Buddha will be Sangha. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. What are the best ways people can stay in touch with me and my work? Yes. Okay, so stay connected. Here is a slide. If you scan this with your phone, and I'll also drop the links directly in the chat in a moment, but I have a feedback form here. I would love to hear from you about, there's 4 questions in there and only 2 of them are required. Just letting me know about your experience from today is really helpful for me. I want to continue to make these really as empowering and supportive as possible, so your feedback is very helpful. And then I also have a free resource here. This resource is a workshop and a workbook to help you say no and ask for support, which are things that I find are really challenging for people who do a lot that they really care about. But essentially it's designed to help you expand your capacity by honoring your capacity. So that is the free resource that I have there. And when you sign up for that, it asks for your email. And so then you'll continue to receive updates from me. I work with clients one-on-one. I host retreats. I work with organizations. And so I see Andrea saying that they can send out some of the links after this call. So I'll make sure that you have access to all of those. But those are some of the ways to stay in touch with me. And I actually just received a grant from the People's Fund where I'm able to offer some free and reduced cost sessions to animal advocates. And so I will be sharing more details about that, but getting on my email list is the best way to be in touch about when that is going to be available. So those are some of the ways that folks can stay connected and work with me. I'm going to drop some of those links in the chat. Actually, it's not letting me, so I'll just make sure that those get emailed out when we stop sharing so I can be with you all again. This has been such a joy, and I am really grateful. And I also see here one of the last comments of, we can't exploit ourselves into animal liberation. Humans are animals too. We need to liberate ourselves. Ashe to that. That is spot on. That is exactly what I hope you all leave here with, is understanding that in order to create our most loving, supportive work in the world, that our personal transformation is integral to collective liberation. So thank you for taking this time to connect with the wisdom of your body, your breath, your body, and the earth, so that we can sustain ourselves in the lifelong journey towards collective healing and liberation. It's been a pleasure and a joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brielle. And just on behalf of DBA and just myself personally, and I'm sure everyone here, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And I've had the, pure joy of being able to see you speak twice now. And just, you really are a gift to this community and to other communities, people who are very invested in collective liberation. Growing up, we're not taught these things. And here we are, we just want to help, and we burn ourselves out. Many people here, we've seen our movement turn over and over again, for the last, every year it seems like there's a new batch of activists. And so retaining our people, making sure we're taking care of ourselves is so vital. So thank you so much for all the work that you do. And then everyone, if please, we'll send you an email afterwards. Also, Dharma Voices for Animals, every last Sunday of the month, we host a meditation and mindfulness sangha. You're all welcome to join. I'll be sure that we do add you to the list. And if there's no more questions, thank you all so much for being here. This will be on YouTube in about a week or so you can share this with your friends. Everyone needs to know this. So thank you so much, Brielle, and everyone have a beautiful weekend. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, we did it. Oops.